Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Cheats Movement podcast. I am joined by a very special guest who is giving us some time, Mayor Levar Stoney. Welcome back. I mean, you are basically a Cheats Movement regular at this point, but welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Cheats. Thank you for having me back, brother.
Now, let's start with, because last time we talked, it was about a week before Election Day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of predictions going rampant, a lot of different things being tossed around. Election Day, though stressful, and I'm sure you had to do a lot of work,
Yep.
The result ended that night. It ended on election night. You seem, you wound up with, 6 out of 9?
Yep, 6 out of 9.
So I know we've talked off the record since then, and one of the things that you actually interestingly said was you learned something from every election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Every election cycle, you learn something new about the city, about yourself. What did you learn in this last race going through this particular election cycle?
What I learned, I mean, when we talk about politically or some personal?
Whatever you feel is the best. I mean, because I'm sure you learned a lot about both. But what do you think comes to mind first?
So, first, that Richmond on social media is not Richmond in real life.
This is where we're starting. this is where we're going. No,
I'm just saying.
You're really like, okay, go with it.
Richmond on social media is not Richmond in real life.
Go with it. Continue on. What do you mean?
I mean, I stay off of it, but what drives clicks and retweets and likes and whatnot on social media isn't what everyday Richmonders are necessarily caring about.
Okay.
And I think that was also reflected in the demographic turnout as well. My coalition, my broad coalition this time, at the center of that broad coalition was the Black vote in the city. Black Richmonders showing up in wards 6, 7, 8, 9, 4th as well. You will not see that on social media every single day, but these are voters. And sometimes social media can drown out what I think everyday Richmonders may be thinking about their government, about their quality of life. And so, I think that played itself out. And I learned something about myself as well, that, before being a candidate in 2016, remember, I've never run for office before. I've always advised other candidates, managed races and whatnot, but also shows that there's some, what got me here in real life in terms of what got me here throughout my life, being a resilient individual from my, from the way I grew up, my raising, that I still, you still have to be resilient to be the leading in these sort of times, particularly during the tumultuous year we had in 2020. So I learned that about myself, that, you just got to power through. You're going to have some tough days in leadership. You just got to power through.
Was there any particular time during the cycle in particular, or maybe even the year, that you might have questioned that about, you question yourself, is this the right thing to do? And you kind of hear it, because one thing about public office, the criticisms are magnified.
Yep.
The praises, even if you get them, you tend to be like, okay, let's just move on.
Yes,
but the criticisms you have to focus on. So obviously this year's been unlike any other, 2020 has been unlike any other, but what I'm hearing from you, and maybe you can elaborate on this, because there's a lot of people going through difficult times personally, and they're discovering new things about themselves. Was there a time this last year where you had to kind of dig deep and say, okay, this is who I am at my core?
That's right. The month of June was the toughest month of my career, my professional career. June was that month. And I mean, we can go through chronologically what happened in June. We don't have to do that today, but June was the toughest month, and it was very challenging. It's so challenging that, I have family who still watch out over me from afar. They may not all live, my family doesn't live in the city, but they're in Hampton Roads. I got family in the Pacific Northwest. my brother was concerned for my safety. He was concerned for my health because he knew I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't hydrating, and he was concerned for my health and my well-being. And at one point, I got on the phone with my brother, because he was checking in with me on a regular basis, and he said to me, man, I'm looking at all these comments on social media. I'm looking at all this. Why do you want to do this anymore? He asked my uncle that, my father's older brother. He said, why does Levar want to continue to do this? Like, I just wouldn't do this anymore. Like, he's talented enough. He's smart enough. He can go on and do something else. And I just told him, this is what I love to do. This is what I love doing. Public service is in my being, every fiber of my being. And he didn't understand that. He didn't understand. I mean, why would you be yelled at and be shouted down? Why would you put yourself through all that? And I put myself through all that because I know there's always going to be good times on the other side of the darkest moments, right?
Sure.
And some people can't see that when they're going through it. I knew there would be better times, better days on the other side of this. It may not happen until 2022 or 2023, but I know there are going to be better days. I'm not a deeply religious person. I'm spiritual, but not religious. But there were a number of people from the religious, from the faith community who reached out to me and it's told me that, like, it's going to get better. It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't have that sort of support, that network, Cheats, I don't know whether or not I would have gotten through it.
That's a good point. And let's use some of that, but transition just a little bit, because obviously we're still, I think, in a far distant kind of future, I think we're starting to see that light. But as we speak right now, we are in a very kind of difficult time. And when I think about that, I'm particularly thinking of Richmond and COVID and Virginia and the effects of COVID-19 and the record numbers of people we're seeing right through this holiday season either be infected, go to the hospital, or suffer a fate that's worse. This has actually touched you. You were quarantined not too long ago from exposures and possible exposures. What is the message now as we know that this is getting rougher? We're hearing news about vaccines, but and we know that some people this week got vaccine shots, and we'll talk a little bit about vaccines in a second. But what is your message as we speak right now to people in Richmond and people in the Richmond region or people in Virginia? Because this is we're in the thick of it right now, and it's getting really close to home if it hasn't hit already.
Yeah, you're right. And before we started to talk about how I just feel like the walls are closing in on us when it comes to COVID. It's almost like, I'm going to use a football reference here. You're in the pocket, and the pocket's closing in. The defenders are all around you. They're all around you. And in March, in April, I didn't really know anyone who had COVID, right? It was like, oh, don't know anyone. Now I'm finding I got friends who are having COVID. One of my employees very close to me had COVID. I'm having friends' parents pass away because of COVID. Just goes to show, for all the misinformation or disinformation that might be out there, who say that, oh, COVID's a hoax, or don't be sheep and all this BS. COVID is real. Real people are losing their lives. Real people are the ones who are paying the price of this, particularly Black and brown people. And so you're right. 2020 is the midnight of all years I've ever seen. The midnight of all years. But I do believe that the dawn is on the horizon, and there's more hope now than we've had before, but we cannot let down our guard. And what I've been seeing is people are letting down their guard a little bit because they think, oh, Moderna, oh, Pfizer, we're going to have this vaccine before you know it, so I might as well go out there and just do as I please.
Right. And that's my biggest fear, is that people will actually get the vaccine and then start wilding and thinking that they can't transmit it to other people, or thinking that they're immune all of a sudden, to the point where, and what I hate to pull out my Cheats critical hat here, but my fear is that even people that get the vaccine, if they're going to be irresponsible, they're going to hurt other folk, or something's going to happen, and there's going to be some distrust and say, oh, I got the vaccine, but I still got it. Well, I don't know if this thing is 100%. You know what I mean? So. But that brings up a couple of questions, and I do want to ask you. You are obviously the mayor of the city of Richmond. Um, Obviously, you're in relatively good shape, but when it comes to a vaccine, I've heard a lot of different things, different information, people saying that they don't want to take it. I think you were asked on a debate stage, would you take it? And it might have depended on the person saying to take it. At this point, are you comfortable taking a vaccine? Will you take it? Do you know when you're in the schedule?
Yes, I'm comfortable with doing so, and I will do so. And I think on the debate stage, I said something like, if it's Trump, saying like, go out there and take it, which actually he's been quite absent from the conversation recently. You got Mike Pence who went out there and actually received a vaccination. You didn't see President Trump, and you got Biden doing it this coming week as well. I'm going to take it because Fauci signed off on it. Mm-hmm. And if Dr. Fauci's doing it, he's not being silenced at all. I think for me, that's the sort of validation I need to move forward. And so obviously I want the healthcare workers to receive it first, the frontline workers, obviously seniors as well, those who are in the most vulnerable category. And when the health department says they need me to do it, I will roll up my sleeve and do it live so that folks know that this is something that we all have to do, because this is still wearing a mask, the social distancing, the staying at home, the washing of the hands, and now getting the vaccine. It's all about this is the different parts of this greatest project we've ever participated in. Mm-hmm. And we all got to do our part. But here's the thing. I understand the reluctance. I understand the hesitation, because it's been Black and brown people who have been the injustices have been inflicted upon them in the healthcare system, in the mm-hmm. medical world, right? And so I understand folks are like, I don't know about that. I text message with a young man who I met through RPS, who I continue to help mentor or whatnot through his time at Virginia Union. And I said, yeah, man, just trying to get this vaccine out to all the folks here in the city. And he said, man, I don't know about no vaccine, brother. I said, what you mean by that? What's it going to take for you to get the vaccine? He said, them lab results. I need to see the lab results.
So yeah, other people, I think that natural. And I think, like you said, it's natural amongst people that have historically been experimented on. Right. Right. And so we've got to understand that I am not as hesitant to take it, but obviously like you said, I don't know when my opportunity will be to do so. And until that day, I will be extremely vigilant about, staying away from folks and so forth. Let me ask you this, because it's been a big topic, and I know you've talked about it as well. I still ride down Broad Street in a car with windows up, you know what I mean, mask on, but I still see a lot of boarded buildings. I hear the news just about every other day, every day, that a small business has been closing, a restaurant has been closing. COVID has really decimated our small business market economy, retail economy, and places. And I'm just, people are out there asking, how do we get that back? How do we get, a time where downtown Richmond, Broad Street, even the places that may not have been as normally affected, but are affected now because it's been 9 months-ish. How do we get our economy in Richmond back and going, especially our small business economy, our minority business economy? How do we get that jump started? Do you have a plan to get it jump started in 21?
Well, first, Mark, in order to get the economy back, to get our small businesses back, that life back, we have to get a handle on the virus. Mm. And that's not just here in the city. That has to be the national strategy, right? If you want your economy back, if you want the world that you had prior to March back, where you can send your kids to school confidently, you can open the doors to your businesses confidently, you can go back to work confidently, then we have to get a handle on the virus. And that means, yeah, the dining rooms may be open at a reduced capacity, but if you want the full world that you had back prior to this, that means you probably should stay home and not be out till 11 o'clock at night or past 10 o'clock, right? I mean, that's part of getting the world that we had prior to this back. Now, the city, on the other hand, we have put over $6 million into the marketplace to provide for relief to small businesses. And my heart aches every time I have to read in the newspaper that a business decided they're going to close their doors. And we would not have enough money in the world to save every single business that we have here in the city right now, without a doubt. And that's why I've been ranting and raving as the Richmond Times-Dispatch put in a headline, I've been ranting and raving about the federal government basically abdicating its responsibility since March. What they did in March in terms of relief package for localities and for individuals and for businesses was the right thing to do. Yet they haven't done anything ever since. And we are just on the cliff of these dollars running out. I'm worried about emergency childcare. I'm worried about, how can we still support some of our businesses moving forward as well? And the city government, we don't have the coffers or the capacity to do something like that. Now, in the beginning, we all offered amnesty to a number of our businesses, offered payment plans and whatnot. But I think folks don't recognize is when businesses shutter and close, or when there's a reduced capacity inside those businesses as well, we see reduced revenue streams as well too. Mm-hmm. And so I have to be prudent. I would even dare say conservative about our projections look like in the next fiscal year and how we finish up this fiscal year. The end of this fiscal year is going to be rough because we are in the deep darkness of this disease and this pandemic right now. The next fiscal year, beginning July 1, looks a whole lot brighter because by that time, it's my hope that we have more and more people vaccinated and that we can get back to more business as normal.
It's just, you're right. I think it's such a difficult thing to assess. You did mention slightly that it really is affecting the budget, right? That's affecting city services as well. I know people are feeling that. How are you kind of guaranteeing during this really tough time that city services are still moving along? And city workers are being protected as best they can.
That's right. Obviously, the health and well-being of my employees is of my utmost priority for me. And unlike some other localities, we have not had to lay off or furlough employees. I just read the other day that Norfolk has cut 57 employees, a lot of them Black and brown residents of the city of Norfolk. I refuse to cut my residents loose in this most difficult time, right? I don't want to see any of cut my employees loose in this most difficult time. I don't want to see them in lines at food banks or just out in the cold. That's something I do not want to see happen. And that's the responsibility as me as the chief executive officer. But I will say, compared to other cities, the garbage has been picked up on time. Leaf collection is still rolling. Potholes are still being filled. Services are still being provided. Remember, I shut down government essentially, for the most part, for maybe roughly a month or two, where I have reduced capacity, reduced operations of city government. We have been up and rolling, and my employees have been showing up as well. But I fear if we have reduced revenue streams, meals tax, emissions tax, if those revenue streams are reduced, then we may have to look at potential cuts in our budget for the next fiscal year, or even before we end this current fiscal year before June 30th.
That's a good question. I was going to bring that up specifically, but you mentioned it in regards to possible budget cuts. Something that people always ask, and every time we talk about a budget, we talk about two things, right? Cuts and new revenue and ways to develop new revenue. Mm-hmm. I hear all the time about kind of city assessments, trying to figure this thing out. If it's going up, if I'm being taxed through the roof, does Stoney look at ways of getting more revenue by increasing taxes as we go into the future? Yeah. What's your outlook as you look into you have 4 years coming up now, yeah, as you look into what the city needs to do? Mm-hmm. Do you see on the horizon any balance of cuts or ways of getting new revenue? Let's talk a little bit about how we get that in there to support city services.
Yeah, let's get into it a little bit, because you're right. This is a debate that the city's been having year after year after year after year, particularly when they look at the way they are taxed and the services they receive compared to their counterparts in the counties, in Rico and Chesterfield. So let's dig a little bit deeper. First, I have nothing to do with one's assessment. There's an assessor who reports to the city council who handles all of that. The city government, us, this administration, we have nothing to do with that. Now, we do set the tax rate, right? $1.20 per 100 on your real estate taxes. Mm-hmm. But guess what? The real estate tax rate has not been touched in over a decade. And it's at the lowest real estate tax rate in the city's history. Now, when people say, "Oh, my assessment's been going up," your assessment likely has been going up because the value of your home is rising as well. So as the value of your home rises, your assessment goes up. And people say, "Why is my assessment?"
Does that price people out of the city?
Well, let me get to that. When people say my assessment goes up, why is my assessment going up? Your value is going up, and why is my value is going up? Because the demand for property, demand for homes in the city is very, very high. And guess what? The supply is very, very low.
Look, I don't want to interrupt, but I want you, but because we hear this, and I understand supply and demand. Is that affected by prospectors, people that aren't really caring about the neighborhoods of the city, but want to come in, get hot property, and flip them out?
I'm sure that's part of that's not the only thing, but I'm sure there's a number of different factors that are involved. Supply and demand is one of them on why the property values are going up and why your assessment's going up as well.
So is there some way, because here's what pulls at my heartstrings, and I'm sure it pulls at yours too, because I know you. I know you well enough to know. If I've got, say, my grandmother, Vivian Cheatham, in Highland Park in Northside, I've been in her house since I was born or older, and this is 50 plus years. If she can't afford to live there, not because of people that want to live in Highland Park, but people want to flip Highland Park. Is there anything that we can do to look at that and protect those individuals?
Well, the one thing we have in place now for people like Miss Vivian is, we have tax relief programs for the elderly, tax relief programs for veterans as well.
At the time, she rates all.
Yeah, we have that. But I think folks are looking to go beyond that. And what I've discussed with members of the General Assembly before, because guess what? Us being a Dillon Rule state, I need to get permission from the General Assembly to even touch tax policy or change tax policy. What I would love to do one day is to lock Miss Vivian in at a rate where she may be at today, or rate she was maybe at 2 or 3 years ago, and have her pay that. And as the rate goes, or as the assessment goes up, right? Lock her in her assessment from today or 2 years ago. As the assessment goes up, that delta is paid for by somebody else when she wants to sell that house to someone, or maybe even give it to one of her heirs. That deferral is covered somewhere, just like what they would do in a city like Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. And I know you have some plans that I don't specifically know about, but I know you have some plans to address what we call the affordable housing shortage in the Richmond in the region. Affordable housing has been a topic probably since before you taken office. These are all things that we've talked about at Nuance for years and years and years. However, what is your outlook as we move forward now? Again, with kind of this new outlook that we have on how do we expand the affordable housing base? How do we get more mixed-use housing? How do we improve the housing stock in the city?
Absolutely. Mark, in 2018, I made a pledge that we were going to work with our private partners and others to build 1,500 affordable units in the city of Richmond by 2023. That was a 5-year goal, build 1,500 units. We surpassed that goal as we entered the calendar year 2020. And by the time we close things out here on December 31st, we will have created 2,000 new affordable housing units in the city of Richmond. And affordable housing, obviously, we always get, what's the definition of affordable housing?
Right, it gets a nuanced thing.
That's, sure. 80% of the average median income down to, 20, 30%. That's what we've created over the course of the last few years. What we need to do, though, Mark, is we need to create 1,000 new units a year for the next decade to keep up with the demand and also provide the supply we are undersupplied in terms of affordable housing. Right now, 45% of Richmonders today spend more than 30% of their annual income on housing in Richmond. Mm-hmm. To me, that eats away at our competitive identity. You and I both know people in our peer group and younger who came to Richmond because it was affordable. We are losing that competitive edge with other cities because now we have not kept pace with the growth and also the housing. And so you're going to see from me I'm going to be bullish on growing the city, growing into our new identity as well. We need more housing, period. And that's why I'm very grateful for the support of the city council and the passage of Richmond 300, our guide to growth. Let that be our guide to moving Richmond forward in terms of not just in population, but also just growing into what I believe is our new identity. We were the capital of the Confederacy. Now we have to create a new identity for ourselves, a place that's more welcoming and more inclusive. And as we do that, I guarantee you, we're going to attract even more people to the city of Richmond. So as we grow, we cannot forget about the folks, the Miss Vivians in the world, who've been here from day one. They got to be protected in the growth process as well.
So let me ask you this, because
and can I add one thing, Chief Smith?
Oh, yeah.
That, brother.
No, go ahead.
The city council today passed out of committee my legislation on an affordable housing trust fund dedicated funding stream. Remember abatements? Abatements was used to actually revive the city after the 90s, right? Well, those abatements are expiring, are winding out. Let's use the dollars that roll off of those abatements and push that into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that allows us to incentivize the affordable housing growth in the city moving forward. And that's what I hope the City Council will approve in their next upcoming meeting.
Okay, that's a good point. Speaking of City Council and speaking of the school board as well, I just saw this week you did have another education compact meeting, right? And as we saw on the video, some chose to participate, some did not. As you look into kind of this your second term and new faces on city council and new faces on the school board, how do you what's your outreach effort to see if you can get people on the same page, get people kind of locked up and moving to make sure that the city, not to say there won't be robust debate, but how do you start off the year saying, hey, we have a new opportunity to get everybody on the same page. How do we move the ball forward?
I'm very optimistic about this next city council because I know a lot of the members.
Most of them would say it is a Stoney friendly, especially city council.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
The proof will be in the pudding.
Okay.
True.
The
proof will be put in. What I've told Dr. Newbill and who's the current president of the council that don't be shocked. I plan on keeping you all busy over the course of the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. And it will be in rapid succession as well. I plan on keeping you busy because we got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. And I believe in making hay while the sun is shining. And I think the sun will be shining on the city of Richmond at the start of 2021, without a doubt.
Two big things I want to ask you about, because I know we're running short on time. One is just a personal thing that I just want to see if we can get it done, and I want to get it done sometime in the future. And I'm talking about the Richmond Flying Squirrels. I'm talking about the Boulevard, and I want, I understand, I know, and I don't even want your knee-jerk reaction. I wrote a knee-jerk reaction when I saw Henrico, where I live, I'm in Henrico, and this, the deal that they're trying to put together for the arena. I figured what your knee-jerk reaction is to that. My immediate attention flipped to what are we going to do on the Boulevard, Arthur Ashe Boulevard? How are we going to ensure that Richmond keeps or maintain the presence of minor league baseball? The Richmond Flying Squirrels have been a wonderful partner, I think, for a decade now. Growing up a Braves fan, I have grown to really love what the Squirrels have brought to the city and the energy. Is that something that is on your radar as we speak for immediate action sometime in this next year?
Absolutely.
Give me some good news. Break some news. What are we going to
get it done? It is on the radar. And here's the thing. When I heard about the Henrico announcement, I called some of the members of City Council and said, let this be a lesson learned. Because there were some who said,
I say,
right to your own opinion. I mean, come on.
I wrote about it. I wrote about it on the Cheats Move.
But let this be a lesson learned.
My read is it's a different deal in Henrico. It's not a different merits of a deal. My read is it is there are different players in Henrico than there are in the city. There was much more opposition in the city, a much more active, if you will, citizenry that has felt scorned. I won't get into my thing. You can read it, but I don't necessarily know. I know a lot of people were like, "Hey, man, told you." I don't necessarily feel that way, but I also feel like we have an opportunity to keep the squirrels. Like,
true.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Say this. The fundamentals of the deal of the opportunity in Henrico are the same as the one in Richmond.
I give you, yeah, I wrote that. Yeah, I agree.
The fundamentals are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentals are the same. Okay, but we luckily in the city of Richmond we got even more opportunities, right? And I think at the top of that list is the opportunities the city-owned properties along Arthur Ashe Boulevard. And we've been waiting for what's going to happen with the ABC property. We know what happened to the ABC property owned by VCU now. Now, I think we have to use the city-owned property around Arthur Ashe, downtown, Fulton Gas Works, all these places as an economic stimulus for the city. If you're going to recover out of this deep dark hole we found ourselves in 2020, then we got to get moving. Delegate McQuinn said it best. Either we're going to be on the sideline watching while other folks around us grow, or we're going to get the doing. I believe we got to start doing. And while we do, any sort of economic development in the city must mean economic justice. Bottom line, hard stop.
I understand the hard stop. That still doesn't answer my question. Are we going to get baseball? Or is baseball going to stay?
Baseball staying in Richmond.
All right,
baseball
is
staying in Richmond.
I mean, I understand. I get it, but I'm just like, yo, I don't need another team leaving.
Baseball is staying in Richmond. Announcements to come.
The other thing I do want to ask you on, and again, I'm very appreciative of the time that you've offered and the candor that you've offered as well. We're moving forward. I think I saw an announcement in regards to City Council has some votes on Citizen Review Board. Yep. Like the people, not the actual board, but the people that are going to put the guidelines and maybe select the people that are on the board. And I know, obviously, this past year in regards to RPD, dealings with RPD and the citizens of Richmond in particular, there was a lot of tension there for yep. several months. Yep. There's still probably a lot of lingering effects of that tension. How do you, with, I guess, Police Chief Smith, correct me if I'm wrong,
that's right.
Police Chief Gift, how do you and Police Chief Smith do the work that is required as we go into this, to go into your second term? And if Smith is ultimately the guy that's riding with you, right? How do y'all go about doing the work to ensure that citizens of Richmond feel that the police are an asset or someone that can help? Because it's in certain pockets, it's a tough sell to say, hey, look, I even want police around. How do you go about doing that work and moving forward? What plans do you have to work on the relationship between RPD and citizens of Richmond?
First, Smith is my guy. I'll be riding with Smith all the way through my 4 years. And so Smith is my guy. He's my guy because he's a change agent and he's a reformer. And that was sort of the necessary boxes that needed to be checked for me for any chief that I was going to hire. And he believes in it. And now we need to put that belief into action. And I think we have a roadmap for that. That roadmap comes from the Task Force on Reimagining Police, public safety in the city. And the one thing that I think we could all agree on, that public safety, community safety is different for different people in Richmond. And what I heard from folks on the campaign trail.
That's a bad thing, right? Shouldn't it be the same from across the board?
Exactly right. Exactly right. It should be the same across. I was about to get to that next point right here to kind of.
I'm kind of quick. Go ahead. Like
that commercial with Kyler Murray and Tebow. I'm just like, can I?
My bad.
But what I heard on the campaign trail though was that when I talked to brothers and sisters in the East End and the South Side, they said, Mr. Mayor, I didn't say I didn't want the police department. We need the police department. All I want is the same police department that shows up in the West End to show up in the East End as well. And I don't feel we get that today. And so I think the roadmap through the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force gives us that policing public safety is a whole lot more complex than the police showing up at every single thing. We got to do a whole lot more on transparency, on how we communicate and engage with the public as well, to earn that trust from the public too. And we got to do a lot more on the way we train our officers to respond to certain situations, and understanding that we don't need officers to respond to everything. We recognize that.
With that, is there, and I guess this will come through some of the work in the task force, but will there be a push to have more first responders, mental health officials, those type of things in situations where you say the police probably shouldn't have to respond to someone in those situations? All of those things are on the table or will be on the table.
Yeah, we are committed to that. I'm a supporter of the Marcus Alert. I'm glad to see that Governor Northam signed the bill the other day. So we're going to work within the parameters of the legislation that was agreed to and approved by the General Assembly. And we're going to create that sort of response that isn't necessarily a police response, right? We can get mental health clinicians, behavioral health workers to be out there and respond to certain situations. That's what we want, to create that sort of community safety.
All right. Last thing, tell me what I need to know or what I should know about the city's role in whatever upcoming casino activity will be happening in Richmond. So I am very confused, and I find myself trying to read and understand this. I get very confused. Is this a city thing? Is this a federal thing? Is this a Native American reservation announcement? How much does the city have involved in this? Where are we down the line? What's the deal? What should people know about casinos, referendums? Who's in control?
There is some confusion out there, okay? Because I think the first potential casino operator introduced to the public was the Pamunkey Indian tribe, right? And the Pamunkey Indian tribe can buy land, put it into trust, and because of their recognition as a tribe in the Commonwealth, they could, without legislation from the General Assembly, just operate a casino if they wanted to. What the General Assembly has given us an opportunity to do, as Danville, Bristol, Norfolk, and Portsmouth have done, is for us to choose our own operator. Because I think a lot of people believe, competition is good. And so what we've done is we've begun with we're going to do an RFP. We let the survey results that we just acquired to actually feed our RFP on what people want to see, right? And then from the RFP process, we will select an operator the operator will select a location where they want to build this resort. Once we choose this individual proposal, we will forward that to the city council, and they will choose to either approve it or reject it. If they approve it, it will go to the ballot, and the voters will have the final choice on whether or not there will be a casino resort in the city of Richmond.
Now, have you made a statement of whether you think this is a windfall for the city, a good thing for the city, a bad thing for the city? What's your read on it?
My belief is it's an opportunity that I think the city should pursue because we do need revenue, but we should not sell out for revenue at any cost. That means, once again, this economic development opportunity has to mean economic justice for Richmonders.
And I'm only going to ask you this because I know you want to talk about justice for all Richmonders. You've actually recently written a letter, I believe, to Governor Northam about the legalization of marijuana. Tell a little bit about your kind of how you got to that point, what you were exactly advocating for. I believe one of the first things about the letter was the people that are actually in jail on arrested for marijuana charges those charges should be dropped and people should be released. I think that was one of the major parts of the letter. But in regards to the economic justice piece, just quickly tell the folks what your posture has been and what you want to see done with the legalization of marijuana.
I've always been definitely a pro decriminalization of marijuana, but recently I've always I'm just going to be just transparent. I've known people who use marijuana before. My father used marijuana before, and I just believe it should be not just decriminalized, it should be legalized at the end of the day. It's legalized in states like Colorado and Oregon and Washington. My only problem with legalization was that I didn't see the benefits for Black and brown people, right? We were the ones being locked up for possessing all sorts of amounts of marijuana, and that basically hanging over our heads for the rest of our lives. I got to see some benefits to Black and brown people. And I think Illinois has done it very well in terms of their legalization, and then also how Black and brown people get a piece of the pie. And so with that should come some criminal justice reform as well, and redemption and forgiveness for those who may have been locked up for possession charges in the past. They should have those charges expunged. I'm also for automatic expungements anyway, but we should definitely specifically expunge for that matter. But also, as we look to the future, we should think about using the revenue that's coming in to fund universal pre-K, not just in the city of Richmond, but in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia.
Mayor City, we're going to have to leave it there.
Didn't get a chance to talk about the Knicks today, but that's okay.
You know what? I was going to give you an opportunity because I was going to say that I was going to save the hardest question for the last question, and that is, will the Jets win a game?
Oh,
because you have been real. I'm gonna get real aggressive real quick because your Knicks slander. I saw on this interview, some other interviews. You've been real loose about the Knicks.
Who, me?
You have been real loose about the Knicks.
Me?
Yet the Jets cannot win a game to save them. They are snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, or defeat from the jaws of defeat, or whatever it is. And you sit there proud of Jets fan, and what are y'all? Oh, and Lord knows what. Are you going to win a game?
Mark, I saw your negative attack on Facebook the other day.
Continue the whole post.
Someone sent it to me. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is a negative attack from the media. This is not cool."
It will. The Nick slander, you and President Obama, both of y'all, because he's a sad Bulls fan.
The Jets will not win a game this year, so don't get your hopes up. I do watch every game.
No, are you kidding? You kidding? And then you know what's going to be great? You know what's going to be great? Because y'all are all on the whole, Zion didn't go to New York type thing. I understand that. But when Trevor Lawrence looks at y'all and says, you know what? I'm going to stay at Clemson. That's what's going to happen.
That does not happen. Don't do that. If you put that on me.
I'm already saying it. I'm saying it.
I will say this: if Trevor Lawrence does not end up with the Jets, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to make some sort of.
You know what? I'm still wear my Knicks gear. No matter.
Leave meeting right now. Leave meeting.
Yeah, we're out of here, man.
Happy holidays, brother. Happy holidays.
I appreciate it. You be safe over the holidays.
Yep.
Happy holidays to you, and we'll talk again, obviously in 21. But definitely stay healthy, stay safe. Make sure you take care of everyone around you.
Same to you, brother. Take care.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.
See you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Our interview with Mayor Levar Stoney. I hope all of you have a safe holiday as we continue on. So I really wish you the best. And until next time, we see it.